So the tinted ground and your initial sketch should be done with really thin paint. Once you have this finished, it's time to start working with our thicker top layers. Now, as you work with acrylic, it's really important that you always start with the darkest values and work lighter until you do your lightest values last. Now, of course, you're going to go back and forth a bit as you're working, but if you get your darker values down first, for example, like these darks inside of the ear, and then your lighter values last, like the whites on top of the ear, that's going to help show the three-dimensional feeling of the picture, because your lights are advancing forward, they're catching more light, and you see more darks in the shadows that are receding away from the light. So it just helps everything read better if you start with your darks and end with the lights. So think in terms of that as you're building up your painting. Okay, now for this exercise, we're trying to match the values that we see. So I'm going to start with my very dark values here by the ear. I'm taking my black paint and I'm just going to try adding just the tiniest bit of white to it. Now, I'm not going to mix it into the whole thing. I'm going to mix it into the side. The black is going to really quickly overpower that white paint. So I'm just going to add a little bit more black slowly until I get about what I think I want. Once you've mixed a color that you think will work for you, the next thing you want to do is to hold it up to your photocopy and see if you're fairly close. And that looks about right. I don't want it to be pitch black. It's just a little bit lighter than that. So that should be good for that value. As you're working, you want to be ready to quickly mix it into lighter values. So I'm going to mix a second value that's just a little bit lighter than this one. So I'm taking a bit more of my black paint. I'm going to grab some of my white, and I'm just going to slowly mix it in. So I'm starting here, just like I did with the last one. I have about the same value right now, but I want to take it just a notch lighter, so I'm going to grab a bit more of my white paint and mix it in. So this should be slightly lighter. And then I'm going to hold it up to my next value area just to compare. And I see that that's just about right. So I'm working right now in this ear area, starting with the darker values, working into the lighter values. Now, as you're working with two values of paint, it's nice to have two brushes handy. So one for your darker values and one for your lighter values. So I'm going to start with my one brush, picking up my very darkest value. I'm going to come over to my painting. Now this is much thicker than what I've had before. I'm painting right next to the dog's eye, that kind of dark blob that I see, and then up through the underneath part of the ear. You'll notice that I haven't used any water, so now I'm going with thicker paint, and I'm just going to, just for the areas of the ear, I'm going to paint in that thick, darker value that I see. Once I have that done, the next step is going to be to paint the lighter value on top of it. So I'm going a little bit slowly. Every time I pause, I'm looking over at the photograph so I can see where I'm at and see what I need to do next. Okay, so I have the darker value in. Next I'm going to switch brushes, pick up the next value. So this is the one that's a little bit lighter, and I'm noticing that inside of the ear and above here it's a bit lighter, so that's where I want to place that lighter value. And it's not a whole lot lighter, it's just a little bit lighter, and I'm just dragging it along into the places that seem a bit lighter. I'm allowing the brush strokes to follow with the fur, so the fur goes up, I go up, and if it goes down, like over here, it's kind of dropping down. So I'm going to let the paint drop down as well, like that. And I think I'll just kind of drag it out here into these lighter areas of the forehead, so just painting a few blobs out there. All right, so as you're working in any particular area, start dark, work lighter, whites last. Use two brushes so that you can go back and forth. So now that I've done my darker painting with this one and lighter with this, if I feel like I need to go back, I can just grab my darker brush, pick up more of the dark paint, and fill in some places or just kind of layer back in. So in general, we're working dark to light, but you always have to fiddle with it to get exactly what you want, and having the two brushes handy can really help you do that.